First Baptist Arlington. Our church occupies about 7 blocks of downtown Arlington. We're a dynamic, growing church that houses a myriad of ministries here on our campus that touch the lives of thousands of people. People from all ages and all walks of life find their way to our church each year. In fact, every week you can find our church engaged in meaningful ministry to people who have physical needs, who need emotional support, psychological counseling, as well as searching for fellowship opportunities, community, Bible study, worship, and missional investments. And we also oversee 4 global centers, providing all kinds of ministry in Central Europe, here in Arlington, in West Africa, and in Western Europe. It is truly amazing. Well, obviously, we didn't get here overnight as a church, nor did we arrive here in a vacuum. This has taken many years for our church to become what it is today. In fact, in order to better understand how we got to where we are today, I think we need to go all the way back to the very beginning, and we'll discover for the last 150 years, this has been a journey of faith and new frontiers. Our church traces its roots back to the era of Reconstruction in America. Our nation was emerging from a long and difficult Civil War. Here in North Texas, Colonel Middleton Tate Johnson had established a Texas Ranger station in the 1840s. It ultimately became known as the home of a stagecoach stop, Johnson's Station. In 1871, an itinerant preacher, evangelist, and church planter named John Quarles Burnett arrived at Johnson's Station. He discovered that a handful of Christians were gathering for worship. So on February the 25th of 1871, he led them to establish the first church in the community, known as Johnson's Station Baptist Church. After Elder Burnett had departed to plant more churches across Texas, the church named Josiah Leake as pastor. And in 1876, with an eye on the future, he led the church to move north to the new growing community developing around the new railroad that had just opened. This community would incorporate and ultimately become known as Arlington, Texas. Our church stepped out on faith to relocate and embrace a new frontier of ministry. We built a new building here in downtown, and we began to grow alongside this new frontier community. Through the years, our church would continue to grow alongside Arlington and provide a faithful witness to the gospel here in downtown. Sadly, our building on Oak Street burned and we had to relocate. So the church purchased property and built a new building on Abram Street, and it would be our home for several decades. However, that building burned down as well, and once again, we were searching for a new home. Our pastor at the time, Dr. Ellis Meredith, led the church to purchase property on Center Street and build a new facility. Again, with an eye on the future, First Baptist moved into our permanent home here in downtown Arlington in 1947, and we've been here ever since on Center Street. After Dr. Meredith's untimely death, the church called Brother Hennard East as our pastor in 1951. Later known as Dr. East, our beloved pastor led the church to purchase more property here in downtown, to build a new sanctuary, and to embrace a new frontier of ministry of church planting. He worked closely with Baptist leaders across our city to establish new Baptist churches across Arlington. That journey of faith into the frontier of church planting has resulted in there being numerous Baptist churches today, providing ministry to thousands of people each week here in Arlington. Many of our folks, me included, still remember Dr. East. His children, his family are still very much a part of our church. Many of us well remember his gentle spirit, his pastor's heart, and his familiar voice as he guided our church for a quarter of a century.
But I can believe it that perhaps there are many here this morning that if you just let God really speak to your heart, perhaps this would be the morning that you would make a decision that could be so very important in your life.
On Mother's Day of 1976, our church entered a new era of ministry when we called Dr. Charles Wade to become our new pastor. Dr. Wade arrived with a fresh new vision for ministry and a deep calling to justice, care for the needs of the people, and a desire to expand the footprint of ministry for our church. For the next 23 years, Dr. Wade led our church as pastor. Today, he's our beloved pastor emeritus. He and his family have been a true blessing to all of us. His ministry was marked by an era of growth and maturity for our church. We purchased more property and expanded our physical footprint downtown Arlington. We built the Family Life Center, the Student Center, purchased the bank building that today bears his name, the Wade Building. Dr. Wade led in the establishment of the Women's Shelter. He led the community to address the need for racial reconciliation, and he established the annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. One of his most significant accomplishments was his vision to embrace a new frontier of ministry and establish Mission Arlington. He led our church to take the gospel to the many apartment complexes across our city and to provide a place where practical needs could be met on a daily basis here in Arlington. And so today, we could not imagine our church or our city without the daily care provided by Mission Arlington. Dr. Wade took his passion and his leadership to the helm of Texas Baptists, and he led our convention in its important mission work until his retirement as the executive director of the Baptist General Convention of Texas. In 2001, the church called me to serve as senior pastor. It has been the great privilege of my life to shepherd this congregation for the past 20 years. And much has happened over these 20 years. We've continued to expand our footprint of ministry as a church. We've established the Counseling Center, the Christian Women's Job Corps, and we've adapted our ministries to the changing landscape of a growing, thriving downtown community. We've purchased more property in downtown Arlington and entered into crucial agreements with the City of Arlington and the University of Texas at Arlington to further secure our presence here in downtown. We've just completed the 5-year Blessing the Generations campaign and have a newly renovated sanctuary. We were able to improve the work of Mission Arlington. We built a new preschool children's building and have provided brand new space for our senior adults. We've also renovated our student center and the second and third floors of our facility, as well as East Hall. And as you know, Cindy and I share a deep calling to take the gospel to the world. So we've led our church to answer a personal call to a new frontier, to send our own missionaries to the world. Today, we have 4 global centers across the world where our folks live and engage in mission work in some of the most challenging places on our planet. Wow, what a story. My goodness, 150 years. It's been a journey of faith and new frontiers. As I reflect back on where it all began, Johnson Station, a Texas Ranger station that became a stagecoach stop, would actually become home to our church. And that's where we began 150 years ago. And now here we are today, and we are grateful for our heritage. We have much appreciation for how God has worked in the life of this church over the last 150 years. But guess what? The story is still being written. We now have newly refurbished facilities, a brand new preschool children's building, state-of-the-art campus really, and it's filled with people. People who are gifted, people who are skilled, people who are passionate about serving the Lord together. And so as grateful as we are for our heritage, and as much appreciation as we've been able to show this year and this weekend in particular for 150 years of history at First Baptist, we're actually more excited about our future because we believe our future will continue to be a journey of faith filled with new frontiers of ministry and mission. And sure, it will be filled with challenges. Our history has been filled with challenges, but we've seen God guide us through those challenges, and I believe we're up to the task as we face the future He has for us. So First Baptist Arlington, congratulations on 150 years. But now together, let's face the future God has for us with great anticipation and hope as we journey forward into the new frontiers of ministry that God has for us.